starting off with something light and not so serious. Who is your favorite woman hero and why, and not including your family?
Who is my favorite female heroine?
Yes.
Let's see. I haven't been asked that question in a long time, and I have before said my mother, obviously, because she is the closest to me, and she was a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably have to start with Wonder Woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's fictitious.
Right.
But I think that there's a lot with her that symbolizes a lot of strength. I know a lot of the history. I've read the startup of Wonder Woman, how she came about, and as being one of the first superheroes. I always like to mention her in talks, as well as, of course, love her look and her paraphernalia. So I even bought a lunchbox of Wonder Woman for my daughter. But I have to say, in current times, probably Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ooh, I love her.
I just think that she is a trailblazer in so many ways, and I love the fact that she has become vocal. I know that a lot of Supreme Court justices and, people are on the fence of whether or not they should speak out politically, but I think that everyone has a right to their own opinion, and I think that as a trailblazer and one of the first females on the Supreme Court and just everything that she's done in her life, I value and respect her as a person as well as her opinion. So I would have to say that she is someone that I very much look up to at this point.
And then before college, what did you plan on doing?
So I was one of those teenagers that sort of knew what she wanted to do even in high school.
Mm-hmm.
I started as a writer, and I loved journalism, and I loved politics. Even in high school, I loved government. AP Government was one of my favorite classes.
Mm-hmm.
I also loved storytelling. And so I applied for college to go into journalism programs as well as political science programs. And I got into the University of Colorado and attended their journalism school. And it was there that I sort of found my path into documentaries. I grew up watching History Channel and Discovery and National Geographic and thought that maybe I would do something in the realm of the environment, but then became really interested in politics. I interned at CNN and decided, I don't want to necessarily go into the news, but I really value informative pieces that allow the audience to decide for themselves on the answer. And so I started making documentaries, and I went into television and eventually communications and marketing as well.
And then what work and motivation did it take you to get to the position and or job that you are in currently?
Can you repeat that question?
What work and motivation did it take you to get to the position or the job you are in currently?
Sure. So I just started a new job with Humana as a communications consultant for the Bowl Gold team, which is extremely exciting for me because it wraps up, I think, the last decade of my professional career, which I can apply everything that I've learned into this position, which is kind of rare. And I come to it not from a population health standpoint, but definitely from someone who has been interested in health and healthcare for a long time, as well as the community that I'm in, which is Louisville. And then I bring the whole marketing, communications, and storytelling side, which is what the position really requires in order to be successful. And that's the path that I've blazed basically since I graduated from college. I started in film at a film company in Colorado. Then I worked at a TV station. I started my own company. I worked for Kentucky Educational Television. Well, I didn't work for them specifically, but I've made programming for them, and we have a long-standing relationship. And so it just kind of made sense in the position that I'm in right now. But I still have my company with my husband and business partner. He runs Parker Lane now and kind of takes care of all the documentary side and the business side of all of our productions that we've done over the last 6 years.
I'm just making sure. You can hear me, can't you?
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I'm in a small room at work.
No, you're fine. So, you're fine. Okay. I was just making sure you could hear my questions and that I wasn't, too far out or whatever.
Sure. Well, yeah, so, going back, I guess that's why I asked you to repeat it in terms of the motivation. Did I
Yeah.
answer that?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I think at this point in my life, there's a lot of things that I want to do, and I really want to make an impact on the community that I live in. And so that's what brought me to Humana at this point.
Did you receive help along the way of your journey to where you are now, like by a mentor or a parent or teacher, counselor, etc.?
Sure. So I think that I received help by a lot of people along the way, not only being supported by my family and my friends, but I definitely have a few key high school teachers that definitely kind of picked me out and said, "You're an amazing writer. You're really great at government." I think I had two high school teachers that thought that I might become a lawyer. But on the flip side, I was very creative. And so I had my English teacher, my creative writing teacher, kind of fostering that aspect, which is when I got to college and realized that I didn't necessarily want to go into the broadcast news industry, because I definitely wanted to have a little bit more creative freedom with the stories that I was telling. I had, in the last 6 years, I would say that there's been a lot of friends and community members within Louisville that have been really supportive. Marsha Weinstein, who you mentioned, she has definitely been a woman that I have revered and looked to and kind of followed in a way, especially with Louisville Girls Leadership. I would say there are a lot of people. I'm a firm believer that you need a really great and vast support system, and that you should always ask for help if you need it, and you should never be afraid to ask for help.
How was your overall experiences in school or universities? Were you the only woman in your classes at universities, and did you feel like you were the only woman in the room ever?
That's an interesting question, because the film and media and production industry in general is very male-dominated, depending on where you sit. And so I went to school, and I was one who wanted to be very much behind the scenes, the producer, the director, the writer. Really manager, kind of controlling what's happening. And there were some times that I was outnumbered by men, but that never kind of stopped me, or I don't think it really dawned on me right away until in retrospect. It's like, wow, this industry is very male-dominated. If I wanted to be a camera person specifically, and this was before small digital cameras, the cameras were really large, and mostly men were using these large beta cameras. So, it really depends, I think, in what career path and what you wanted to do. But I would say that in the last decade, I've definitely tried to surround myself by more women, especially more professional women, and getting involved in those groups. So I'd say probably in my early 20s, yes. There were times where I was one of the only females in the room, or my first internship, I think I was the only female in the office of about 20. It was at a phone company, because one of the producers worked at home, and the other was remote. So, I would say in my early 20s, but recently, no. Which is something to say for where everything is going in the 21st century. I really think that there are more women working and running professional organizations, and that companies and organizations are doing a better job of recruiting as well.
How do you think that your professors envisioned you?
Well, I don't know about my professors, because I was only close to maybe one or two in the journalism school. But my high school, as I indicated, my high school teachers, I had one recently tell me that she thought that I was going to be a lawyer, but that I also displayed quite a vast creative energy, and so it made sense that I kind of went the communications and television and media realm as well. So, I've been told that I was strong-willed,
Yeah.
and opinionated,
Uh-huh.
but also very honest and loyal and gracious, and really stuck to what it is that I wanted out of life and went after it, which I valued and viewed as positive things.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any female professors, and did you have any female professors who especially supported and helped you meet your goals?
Yes, the one teacher from high school, who, my AP English teacher, she has stayed with me throughout my life. I'm still in touch with her, and she is still a great supporter of everything that I'm doing. And I have to say that, there were moments in high school that she took me aside and, gave me words of wisdom, as well as, congratulations, and also a vast amount of support for my creativity and my writing and where I wanted to go in life.
Mm-hmm. And then, how do you feel working in your job now? Do you feel fair treatment between you and the opposite sex?
Can you repeat that question, Taylor?
How do you feel working in your job now? Do you feel like there's fair treatment between you and the opposite sex?
Yeah, I don't think that that's even an issue.
That's good.
So,
What are some of your future plans and goals in life?
My future plans and goals. Well, like I said, I just took this job at Humana, which is extremely exciting.
Yes.
And I kind of look at this position as somewhere where I can really learn and grow and be in for the long term. So I know that when I decided to take this position and go back in-house in a corporation, because I've owned my own companies, I've worked as freelance, and I've also worked for state government as well as private companies, and making that decision was in part because I wanted to wake up every day and know exactly what I was going to do, and also to be working towards something that really mattered in other people's lives. The work that I'm doing, I feel, is very important, and that was really the deciding factor. So if I can stay on this trajectory, that's really what I want in life and my future. I'm mid-30s now, and so I look at the next 30, 40 years as really kind of digging in and trying to create as much impact as I can in a positive way.
Do you have any advice to your high school self and to other young women now?
That's a good question. Any advice? So I was sitting in an interview once for Raising Miss President, and I think it was with Renee Shaw from Kentucky Educational Television. And I said, really, after I got finished with Raising Miss President, I kind of looked at the whole 60 minutes as a letter to my 16-year-old self. Because when I was a teenager, in the 90s, growing up in the 80s, that was a time when young girls were being told that they could be anything that they wanted to be. And I was a big tomboy, and then I hit puberty, and suddenly I didn't feel like I could be anything that I wanted to be. And I was told that I had to act and be a certain way because I was a girl. And for a long time, it really pained me as a teenager, and even in middle school, not really understanding why it was different for boys and girls. And so, looking in today's world and doing the research and going through all the interviews, I look at Raising Miss President, which for me and for others of the feedback that we've heard is that it's extremely inspirational because it's talking about how we raise our daughters versus our boys, and if you could do things differently, how can you help foster those young women who do want to lead to be leaders? And that's how I felt in high school. I felt like I was a leader. I felt that I wanted to do things that would put myself out in front that I was afraid to. And so that's the whole piece of Raising Miss President, I would say, is a letter to myself, which would be, don't be afraid. It's okay to put yourself out there. It's okay to take risks and and it's okay to fail.
Mm-hmm. According to Merriam-Webster, feminism is the belief that men and women should have equal rights and opportunities. Do you agree with this definition? Why or why not?
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
I think that men and women and all people should have equal opportunities. And I think that it's really important that that doesn't become a divider,
Mm-hmm.
but actually a uniter, because, women need men to be on their side as much as men need women to be on their side.
Right.
And I hope that in the future, and it seems to be going that way, that there is, there's a very loose definition of feminism.
Yeah.
But how you quoted it brings it back to its roots. It's about equality of opportunity and equality between the sexes. So, I think that we're getting to a time where roles are less defined, and I think that that's an important point in our history, and that will only continue to grow. And so, we'll have more equity, and we'll have a stronger society because of it.
Mm-hmm. Do you consider yourself a feminist?
Sure. I don't define myself as any one thing, but, if someone would say, do you believe in feminism? Yes, I do. Wholeheartedly.
Yes. It's funny because the women that I've interviewed, they've all said, well, I don't like to put labels on myself, and the men that I've interviewed, they've all said, yes, I'm a feminist, and it's interesting getting, their results back and seeing that, so I'm just,
I think that it's difficult for women because there's been such a negative connotation with saying, I'm a feminist.
Yeah.
But that's basically like me coming out and being like, I'm an independent,
right.
or I'm this, or I'm that. And that's the thing, is that pigeonholes you into one line of thinking, which is not what I have. I, as a journalist, first and foremost, I always say there's four sides to a story. There's always, and that's why I'm an independent, and I like to take information in and figure out the best results or the best solution with all the information put in front of me. I would call myself a feminist. I would call myself, an independent. I call myself a mother. But just say, I'm a feminist, I think that it is hard for women because, that, again, that it's like you can only be one thing.
Yeah.
And that's probably in part because, the media and society has kind of said that. But, I totally get that, and that is really interesting.
Yeah. Do you feel like the representation of women in government is particularly low in the U.S.? Why or why not? And do you know what percentage of women make up the U.S. politics? Which I'm sure you already know.
So we're breaking up the question?
Yeah, it's the same question. Yeah. You could just, however you interpret it.
Of course. So in Congress, it's around 20%, and then across the states, I think it hovers around about 24%.
Oh, wow. In what ways do you think society can better motivate girls or women to actively participate in leadership roles in our society?
So what has been really exciting in the last 10 years, and we actually profiled and interviewed two organizations that are really working hard to find and foster leadership in young women, particularly in political leadership, and that's Ignite and Running Start. They're on opposite sides of the country, although Ignite is trying to get into more states, which is great. They really focus on local level and underserved areas. And then Running Start pulls from, I think, when we interviewed them, they said they had 30,000 applications for 50 spots. So they take a young woman from each state, and they bring them for a week training program in Washington, D.C., where they get to meet senators and congress people, and they get to do media training and learn all about government and politics. They really get a full experience. And that was 4 years ago that I interviewed them. So they probably even have more applications today. So I think that organizations like that, when I interviewed them, they were few and far between, but there are more organizations. doing that work. And so I think, and here locally, we have Global Girls Leadership, which is still very important.
It is.
And, that's outside of school. Within school, I definitely think that we could be teaching across the board, both boys and girls, more about politics and government and civics.
Yep.
I think it's really important to be involved, even at a young age, and really understand democracy and the process and what kind of influence you can have. We are very apathetic across the board in this country where only 50% of the citizens are voting, and that is really unfortunate, because then it's only 50% of those people who are really deciding elections. So that's a really small margin of people who are voting for people who are making some of the most serious and best decisions in our country and within our states, and this is locally too, and that varies from state to state, obviously, that political participation. But I think also as parents, I always say, everything kind of it starts at home, right?
Yeah.
So using certain language to either promote or discourage leadership is really important to watch. I know that I came from a very conservative household where, I definitely got that feel that women weren't really expected to do more than work outside the home or be a teacher or be a nurse, something that was very much at the time and still is a female-dominated profession. So, there are barriers, there are obstacles in society that we have to overcome, but I definitely think that both fathers and mothers are seeing and evaluating how they treat their girls versus their boys today in the 21st century. And I think that there are a lot of studies that show what that effect and what that support has on children as well. And I think things are changing. Maybe not as fast as people would like, but change doesn't happen overnight. And I really think that things are getting better.
And then this is the last question, but if this was your project and you had to create an art piece that represents women in government, how do you think you would best represent that?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. Can I ask you what some of the other people said?
Well, Attica Scott said she wanted to kind of create like a performance. Let me think. Marsha, she said something about, I think she did something about like a kind of like a live performance as well. And then the man that I interviewed said that he wanted to produce kind of like a play or something that's also visual. So most of them have been like visual kind of things. This is just like kind of to help me get the creative juices flowing.
Sure. So ask the artistic interpretation again. Is this ask the question again.
Okay. If this was your project and you had to create an art piece that represents women in government, how do you think you would best represent that?
Okay. So I would do something visual as well. But I'm thinking I love quotes. And I'm thinking of, putting something up either with painting or drawing or collage. I also love mixed media.
Yes. With
quotes from women and men that allows the viewer to decide, was that said by a man or a woman?
Yeah.
And so something along those lines that would be interactive as well as thought-provoking and revealing as well.
Yeah. That's interesting. I haven't heard that one, but that was the last question. I just want to thank you so much for